have been due to my knowing that he sought the book. He came to my room 100 times or more prior to this time, and always on a different errand. That is, not for the passbook. At our request, the partners made a record of the number of incidents of thought transference that occurred in a month, where there could not be any doubt of the passing of thoughts by other channels than the ordinary senses, and they reported 72 such cases in that length of time. They also added the incidents, and these were of all varieties. It was an interesting list. The two men are keen in mind, shrewd in business, and have never been deceived in any transaction. They read their fellow beings like books, and with certainty. This habit has grown on them in the past 10 years. 18. A man who was being urged by his wife to attend church one Sunday morning said, "The minister has a sermon on the rich man and the eye of the needle, and I do not care for it." The wife thought that her husband was making an excuse, and said she would assure him that the minister had no such sermon. This led to a debate in which both became very positive, and to see who was right, both went to church. The sermon was on the rich man and the eye of the needle. After it was over, they went up to the minister, told of the circumstances, and were informed that the sermon that had been intended for that morning was on a different subject, but that at the last moment he decided to preach the one they had heard. I do not know what impelled me to make the change at the last moment, but the idea came strongly to me to substitute one for the other for the morning, and use the other sermon for the evening. The wife was of the opinion that the clergyman had discussed the subject with her husband at some time previous, but this was shown not to be the fact. She then said, "My husband is not fond of going to church on Sunday mornings, and as it is often the case that men of wealth are compelled to listen to sermons on riches, I am of the opinion that he made a bold guess when he stated that you were to preach on the rich man and the eye of the needle." In reply to this assumption, the minister said, "In all my pastorate here of 8 years, I have never yet said a word on that subject. But during the past week I have for the first time taken it up, and have been diligent in preparing it. But I have not had any conversations with your husband for several weeks, nor did I have any intention of dealing with this subject until last Monday. There is no way in which he could have received information from me or anyone else." The husband said, "I wanted to make some excuse to my wife about going to church, and I uttered the first words that came to me. They sprang into my mind in a flash, and that is the first I knew of them or had thought of them." That's pretty interesting. 19. A boy, not over 11 years of age, was going home with his father and mother one evening about 9 o'clock, when suddenly he exclaimed, "Oh, do not go in the house. I know some man is hiding in there." The parents were not superstitious, nor believers in any of the dark arts or sciences, but they yielded to the entreaties of the boy, and summoned a policeman who was nearby, and told him of the fears of the boy. The policeman, in a good-natured way, said he would go in, if they would give him the key. This he did, and as he entered the front hall, a shot rang out. He fell wounded to the steps. Other policemen came and eventually captured a burglar who was in the house. This case was investigated, and every detail showed to be true as stated above. There was nothing by which the boy could have been put on this guard, and when interrogated as to why he had said what he said, the only answer he could make was that he believed someone was in the house who would kill his father. 20. A woman was giving a reception to some friends, and all were on the second floor of the house. She soon excused herself and went to a rear room. Calling down through the tube to the kitchen, she said, "Go to the basement and lock the door leading to the yard." The butler did this. A man ran out just in front of him. The woman on the second floor again called down, "Go to the corner and call a policeman, as I think there is a burglar hanging about the yard." This was done, and the burglar was arrested. The woman said she did not hear, nor did she see the man, but felt that he was there. 21. A man who had never been involved in any wrong, but whose character was of the highest, was about to retire one evening about 10 o'clock, when a strong feeling came over him that he was the subject of a special hostility on the part of a gang who proposed to hide their crimes behind his good name. He told his wife that something was wrong, and he was going out, but he did not know where he was going. On leaving the house, he called at the home of a legal friend who was still up, and the two proceeded to a certain club of which they were members. As they entered, the chairman of the executive committee said, "I am glad you have come. Have you heard what is going on? We can head them off if we lose no time." That very hour, a detective was employed and put to work, and before morning dawned, 3 of the gang were under arrest. The burden of the whole affair was shifted to the guilty parties, with the result that the man's name was not even mentioned, nor was there ever a suspicion that he might have been involved in the trouble. This was a case of useful transference of thought. 22. Husbands and wives who are in thorough sympathy with each other sooner or later come to look at something alike, if not in features, at least in the expression of their faces, and this is due to their mutual habits of thinking. In all such cases, they are quick to know each other's thoughts, as has been proved many times in individual instances. There are many medical cases, some reported in the books of specialists, and others generally known by doctors, where men have taken on the pain of their wives, sometimes carrying the identical symptoms, and offer the same complications. This is due to the fact that the other mind influences the conscious mind, and the latter actually changes the brain tissue and mental habits that control the functions. This process is easy to understand and easy to prove. So, the other mind influences the conscious mind, and the conscious mind actually changes the brain's tissue and mental habits of the control functions. Now, this was in 1936. Maybe it was speculation. I don't know if they had the science to prove that back then, but that's what they say. So the process is